Good afternoon. Today's video kind of out of order. Ironically, I was going to do a video and have it waiting on Finra arbitration, but certain information came out today, and I elected to to change the theme of today's video. It still relates to Finra, but it will become obvious what it's related to as we go through this. This is not legal advice. Um, to this point in time, and like and subscribe. So to this point in time, Finra and the other defendants in the MMTLP saga have basically said there's nothing there, nothing to look at. We're all innocent. There are just some mistakes, but there's no corruption, just incompetence. That's the defense. And what we received today would suggest maybe to the contrary. So, per a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request that was made by Howard in our community, and although the response was not complete on March 30th, or at least a response dated March 30th, there was 23 pages that were provided in response to the request relating to MMTLP, MMAT, shorts, the reason for the U3 halt, etc. Most of the information, boy, my voice got high there. Most of the information was redacted, so it had like big blank spaces like that. You could see it like a big blank space. And then some of the information, I don't know if you could see it, there were numbers like B6, B7, so it references somebody. There's a reference to like B6 and B7, so B6 would be a confidentiality exemption, and B7 would be some exemption related to law enforcement. If law enforcement was doing an investigation of somebody, that may not be reflected to there. So it suggests there is law enforcement activity with regard to MMTLP and MMAT as a side issue. But that's the nature of the document. So about 23 pages came. I know that many others have made FOIA requests that have not been responded to or incomplete, etc. And that's certainly a lacking in the system. And I'm going to get into the deficiencies in the documents that were provided in a second, but let's kind of go on through. Now, the documents themselves didn't come from Finra, they came from the SEC. But unfortunately, they fail to reference, and if you take a look at them, and they'll be available, if you look at them, they reference other documents, but those other documents haven't been produced. For example, they refer to inquiries and tips, for example, but there's nothing referenced. They refer to attachments of documents, but those aren't attached. And appropriate contact information as to FINRA employees or SCC employees is also seems to be improperly excluded. Kind of side issues, but just goes to show you we still haven't gotten a full and complete response from even the SEC. 4 names are prominent throughout the documents that are produced, and I think I indicated there's 23 pages, but a lot of that is duplication, so in essence there may be only 10 pages. So we got this information from 10 pages, and there are countless other pieces of evidence that exist that we haven't been able to get our grubby little hands on. But throughout even these 10 pages, 4 names are prominent through the documents that were provided. And again, a yay and a shout out to Howard for the request. And for everybody else in the community, put the pressure on also. So thank you. So the names that are referenced are Sam Drady, and maybe I'm mispronouncing his name. He's the FINRA Senior Vice President of National Cause and Financial Crimes Detection. He's in charge of market investigations and in investigating market fraud. Prior to FINRA, he was senior counsel for the Division of Enforcement at the SEC. So he was the top cop at the SEC. He also holds a Series 7 broker's license. So I went back, and again, I haven't had a lot of time to do any significant degree of research. So this is just on a quick, when I scoured things before doing this video. And I found an article in the LA Times in 2013, and so that's 10 years ago. And Drady, or Draddy, whatever his name is praising the tactics, technology, and investigative efforts of FINRA. He says that They have a clandestine unit that uses basically CIA tactics to track unusual trading. Could unusual trading be applicable in this particular case that we're talking about here, MMTLP and MMAT? They use sophisticated computer algorithms to check for unusual activity before major company announcements like corporate action notices. The system they used in 2013 was nicknamed Sonar, and that was in addition, and still is in addition, to what they were saying and promoting, that their analysts actively and routinely mine public information, social media sites, and anything else that's in the public domain. So not only was Draddy a super cop with super skills at detecting all forms of fraud and manipulation, but his analysts mined all public information. So clearly, Finra would have known anything that was not only in the public information, but anything that Drady would have been aware of that was brought to his attention. So Drady was the great fraud detector running a CIA operation mining all public information plus their secretive investigative methods, who was notified about the MMTLP, MMAT thing in late 2021 from the documents that they provided today, and then again at latest December 2nd of 2023 as an agent and representative of Finra. And somehow, and if you look at the FAQ and Finra's position, somehow Finra claims they were not aware of the MMTLP saga and what should be done until the wee hours of December 9th, 2023. Even Drady or Draddy, whatever his name is, can't make that argument with a straight face. Pure nonsense. Makes no sense. So per the email, and this is one of the provided emails, dated November 29th, 2021, which just happens to be after MMTLP appeared to have started to trade illegally, Drady, Finra's top cop on fraud, and Patty Casamates, don't laugh, I may have mispronounced it, but now her title is humorous in a way. She's vice president of Finra's Transparency Services. Imagine that, Transparency Services. And surprisingly, manages the OTC corporate action notices. Would that relate at all to our situation? And had previously worked on market regulation and also in the enforcement division of Finra. So she was another cop. So the email, this November 29th email, references some inquiry, but does not provide it. So it says there's an inquiry, and that's what the email is in relation to. And it's regarding MMTLP or MMAT, because that's what this Freedom of Information Act request is asserting. So it references some inquiry, but it doesn't provide the anything, just references it. Just references a conversation between these two, and there's nothing else that is provided about this. So where are the documents related to this issue? Have they been destroyed? Is this why all defendants are stonewalling, as they know that documents have been destroyed, and they know as time goes on, other documents will point to the fact that documents have been destroyed? But clearly it shows that as of 2021, Finra was aware of the MMTLP disaster then, and they let it go on. They let people trade. They let people spend money. They let shareholders lose money. It's disgusting, corrupt, and fraudulent. We next move to the December 2nd, 2022 email. And this is between the SEC and Finra, and this is where they've been informed that the documents have been produced. So in this particular document, I don't think that made a lot of sense, but in this particular document, It's involving a Richard Boyle, and I looked him up and I couldn't find him at Finra. A Jay Gibbon, he's a principal investigator at Finra, but who had previously been a manager of the fraud detection unit. So I don't know if that is a demotion, but it does sound like it would be a demotion moving from the manager back to a investigator, but I don't know that for sure. There's at least one blocked out name, and if they're affiliated with FINRA, there's no reason they should be blacked out. If they're affiliated with the SEC, they shouldn't be blacked out unless it's a exemption with a 7B or C attached, which might reflect an ongoing criminal matter. That's what it reflects. But I don't know. But it certainly suggests that Gibbons, who was the principal investigator for FINRA, had discussions with the corporate actions team prior to December 2nd, and that discussion would have probably been with Patricia as she headed that unit. So not only do we have discussions and knowledge related to Drady, but we also have it related to the corporate actions unit. And all these people, including the chief cops, were aware of this long before December 9th. FINRA admits that prior to December 1, 2022, and this is per that same December 2nd, 2022 email, its fraud division had received several tips with regarding to the spin-off transaction, and so had the SEC. Now, where is the SEC? The SEC had received tips, and I haven't heard a single word out of the FCC. Where's Gary Gensler? If the SEC had received tips, where are the tips? Where are the writings? Where are the actual tips? Where's the information that was provided to FINRA? Who's the person whose name has been excised? Why have the documents not been produced? Do they exist or have they been destroyed? Has there been spoliation of evidence? I'm asking a lot of questions. But besides the corruptions that's demonstrated in knowledge in these documents, it opens up a whole series of additional areas of inquiry and concern about our regulators. Do our regulators really have our backs, or are they corrupt and acting in their own self-interest? I'll let you answer these questions yourself. So these documents establish corruption and knowledge, obviously before any corporate action notice was issued on December 6th, and they had started the cover-up process. And I think that's what happened. The change in the corporate action notice from the language in the 6th to the 8th, I think is just reflective of the cover-up that was contemplated. We have a 12/5/2022 email between Boyle, Gibbons, and others setting up a meeting to discuss the fraud issues related to NextBridge MMLT transaction. There's also a blacked out SEC name, and I wonder out loud, and I ask that if it's not him, that he deny it. But could one of the blacked out SEC names be Gary Gensler? So was he copied on these transactions because of the nature of the fraud and the nature of the possible risk to the financial system? And is that being blacked out to protect him? I don't know, but it would be helpful and transparent for the SEC and FINRA to disclose the names. There's no reason for the names to be blacked out just because FINRA or whoever prepared these documents elected not to. So interesting, in that 12/5/2022 email from Chief Cop Drady, who was on notice again in 2021, he admits that his fraud team and many others outside of his fraud team were aware of this nonsense fraud in addition to Patricia and General Counsel long before this 12/5/22 dated email. They also admit, and I find this astonishing, that as of 12/5/2022, obviously in an effort to figure out the number of shorts, illegal shorts, who held what, where the shares were traded, there's an admission that FINRA or the SEC is blue sheeting both MMAT and MMTLP. So Contrary to what Finra might state in their FAQ, they know exactly the number of illegal shares and illegal shorts that exist with regard to MMTLP and NextBridge. So their FAQ, where they acknowledge that some shorts exist in NextBridge and that the brokers somehow can work out some arrangement to deal with that, is nonsense. They knew exactly. And to the extent they concealed the numbers, they were trying to be deceptive, as they are at any moment that we have with regard to this matter. Moreover, if you look at the language in that December 5th, 2022 email, and you look at the way Draddy stated it, that now his fraud team was aware of it along with others, in light of the fact he was aware of fraud in December of 2021 as a representative of FINRA along with Patricia, it suggests to me that he was withholding this from his fraud team. And that's why they discovered it at this time. And that's why he used the language. To me, the language is odd. It suggests concealment. And with these people, it would not be surprising if there was further concealment. So, again, I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time on this, so this is basically off the cuff and off my head. But the bottom line is, any claim that the U3 halt was due to settlement issues is utter nonsense. It only relates to the obvious fraud and corruption in the trading of the security of MMTLP, MMAT, NextBridge, and again is directly inconsistent with all the lack of clarity and false statements referenced in the FAQ, and is a further deceptive practice by FINRA and the other defendants. It's really disgusting, but above all, the fact that our regulators are this corrupt and bad means that we're all in jeopardy, and we can't wait. We need immediate action. So, this weekend, with regard to my action, I'm preparing a declaration. It'll be submitted to court before Monday. It'll be submitted as an emergency declaration, and I'm going to ask for immediate discovery. Don't know what the judge will say, but it'll be in the public record, and FINRA will have to respond, and I don't think they have done a great job of defending themselves to this point in time, and certainly since about March 16th, I believe they've dug their own hole here. So to all you out there, to Howard, to everybody else in the community, keep it up. We have them against the wall, but we need to continue to press. When you have an advantage, you keep up the full court press. So let's keep up the full court press. Everybody be well. Take care. Have a good weekend. And hopefully Monday brings us more good news.